Good morning.
Good
This
morning,
is take
everyone.
2 because for some reason it didn't go live and we hit the live button
Here
a
we
few
are,
minutes ago.
right?
So, welcome to Awkward Channeling,
How are y'all? Little
where
early.
we're having an awkward start. You guys didn't know that
Always.
until we told you, but today we're kind of going to shift things a little bit. We've been kind of willy-nilly in things, I think, as I would call it, and we decided to start a series.
Yep.
Ghost stories and how we cleared them or didn't, and possibly why.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about um, kind of, I think, some of our first experiences before we were really had the understandings we have now, when things were just kind of opening up or we had no idea and stuff was just
Right.
happening, right? We just
Absolutely.
thought it might be kind of fun to share some of that.
Yeah.
And
Do something that has a little bit of structure now to keep us on track, maybe.
yeah, you
Mhm.
know,
But yeah, it'll be interesting, I think. And we're both tired and goofy, so
oh, I know. I don't know. It's 8 a.m. for me, which it's
yeah.
early, but it's not like I'm not normally up, but I think I'm just not normally
Yeah.
with, or I'm having a weird mood today. So,
Oh.
oh,
Good morning,
Judy.
Judy.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Judy. Thanks for coming, honey. Yeah, we know what we're doing, but we haven't really talked about who's doing what or what we're saying. So, we'll,
Do
we'll
you
get
want me
this.
to start with
Yeah, could you?
my
Because I'm
story?
just not.
Okay, yeah. It was I've always had experiences my whole life. I just never really had anything that I felt I needed to get rid of until we moved into this house we're in now. And it was probably 2000, 19, maybe 20. I'm not sure. Can't remember right now. But I had been having instances where I kept getting scratched. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, just get the hell away from me. Go away. You're not
Here's
going to
an
scare
entity
me.
story.
I'm like, just you go away. And it went on and on for a while. And I'm just like, what? And I don't know. It just never clicked for me because I wasn't into Reiki yet. I haven't learned anything yet. And then one day, my son comes to me and he's like, Mama, I have to talk to you. I'm like, oh God, what? Here I am thinking the girlfriend's pregnant.
Something
If only.
physical.
And back when he was 14, he had a friend that committed suicide.
Um,
Well, a few months after that, he got another friend to loan him her Ouija board.
mm, well, that explains the scratches.
Right. And I'm like, dude, I'm like 100, like not in my house ever. It was just a whole, don't you ever do that. Well, him being him and he's a Cancer, so he's all up in his feels and I get missing your friend and everything, but
Yeah.
I'm like, can I beat your ass now or later? you know, and
I kind of don't think you need to. I think
I
what he
mean,
brought in was trying to.
right? No shit, because it was just scratching me, but he's like, it was throwing shit in his room, scratching him, pulling stuff off the bed, and I'm like, why did you wait so long to tell me? Because I didn't want you to beat my ass.
Right,
I'm
right.
like, yeah. You know,
So how did you
I'm like,
clear it?
it's better than what's happening to you now, you know. And oh, good morning. And
Uh,
so I was like, oh crap, I'm like, how am I going to get rid of this shit? I'm like, I'd watch shows and stuff like that, but still, I'm like,
yeah.
whatever. So I get online, and no, I'm lying. I was in the process of learning Reiki. That's what it was.
Oh,
And I found a prayer to Archangel Michael, and I came up and I said the prayer and all that, and I found some Tibetan bells on YouTube. It was a clearing energy. I had it on every TV, full blast, walking around saying, and just, I was mad at that time because I'm like, you're messing with my kid now. It didn't bother me when you're messing with me, but now you're messing with my kid. So you really got to go. And
Yeah, the number one
it
rule
took a
there.
couple times doing that prayer, before it finally, and then when I was finally actually attuned to Reiki, I went in with the Reiki symbols and
Yeah.
put it on all the windows and TVs and everything I could think of, mirrors and it.
Yeah.
I was proud of myself because hey, I got rid of whatever they.
Well, and that's the thing, we really can. If you believe you can,
Right.
you absolutely can. Where you run into an issue is if you have any doubt. That's
Yeah.
that's when you really run into an issue. But I mean, there are a lot of people who can help you.
Right.
Hey, if there's anything you can't clear, you can just give me a holler. We'll take care of it.
Right.
But, I mean, everybody, there's so many people, and I know that you wouldn't know who to go to, right? Which is
Right.
really hard.
Yeah,
Um,
especially in this
and then-
town here, it's like, who am I going to call? I was like,
yeah.
nobody's going to believe me around here. It's a small town in Louisiana.
Louisiana.
It's like it's not happening.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Um,
was
it's funny because I think I find it interesting that it was at the time that you were learning and attuning to Reiki. And
yeah,
one of the reasons I find it interesting, since we're going to start with entities, we'll just go there. When I started to learn and I started to understand there was more, and I was starting my first class, my first education,
yeah,
I was attacked constantly.
really,
It was nuts. I
yeah,
mean, there would be people driving by that would look in and my car stereo would start doing stuff. I mean, it was crazy. Like I had people run me off the road. I'm a good driver, so like
yeah,
I would usually win, but like there was a lot of weird things that took
yeah,
place. And as I understood at the time, it was kind of, two things. First, we need to understand we can clear it. We
right,
need to understand that we're powerful. Secondly, they want to stop you. Like
right,
they're like, don't wake all the way up.
yeah,
And so if they scare people, it makes people go, oh yeah,
yeah,
maybe if I just back out of this,
and
I'll
that's
get
how
left
I
alone.
was
And
before. Like
the
in
truth
that,
is, you're not left alone though.
yeah,
They just will be sneaky about
yeah,
it, and that's where we run into issues when we're, I don't know, awakening or learning or
right,
coming into our own, like when we're coming into ourselves, our
yeah.
true selves, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that's
I had in the beginning for me, and I say beginning, I mean, I always had something, but I never understood any of it. I mean, I had the entities coming at me, I had attacks all the time, stuff flying through the house, like there was all kinds of things I was learning.
yeah,
And um, I started having spirits come to me.
yeah,
And I can't even explain how I knew they were there because I don't see things really, but I was like, oh, there's a spirit here, and got this trusty pendulum, right? That I've protected and, done all the energy work on that needed to be done. And, I had very quickly had a couple of spirits come to me asking for help.
yeah,
One of them had taken her own life, and was earthbound. She was very different energy, felt very different, and I was like, "What's this about? Like, has she not crossed over? She not crossed over." And we had like this conversation. Usually the pendulum is spelling things out. It
yeah,
even took some time, but she was like, "I'm afraid. I'm afraid to cross over."
right,
And I was like, "Why?" But she was religious based
yeah,
and believed, deeply that what she did was very wrong and that,
right,
she was going to go to a very bad place. And, this is something that not everybody believes, but my understanding, even at that time, was that there isn't any of that. The
right,
judgment piece is coming from us, and that it is safe, to go into the light because that's where all the love is, right? Like
right,
that's where the love and the acceptance and the understanding and the growth of the experiences that we have here come into play. So, I just had that little conversation with her, and for some reason she believed me.
yeah.
crossed over, and it was really interesting, because she did leave, and it was palpable. You could tell she was not there
Yeah,
anymore, and then she came back, like, I don't know, a short period later, days or weeks, whatever it was, and I was like, "Your energy is kind of familiar. Is this so and so?" Because I had gotten her name,
yeah,
which is funny because I don't usually, but I had gotten her name and she was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Thank you so much." Like,
no,
she came back and confirmed, "You're right." And I was like, "Oh, good." It was the
that's so
funniest thing.
awesome.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
had a couple of those things, and, you know, we can call down the light for them. We
oh, yeah,
can, you know, open a bridge,
yeah,
what have you for them,
yeah,
which was a really interesting first time on my own experience because my teacher
yeah.
was
But
not.
see, they had me scared to death from so long when you were talking about getting
Yeah.
attacked because I was basically tormented as a teenager, and it didn't,
Yeah.
growing up in this little bitty town, this was
Right.
before Google,
Mhm.
shit, we didn't even have internet, but I'm like,
Yeah, no, we didn't.
I was like,
I'm older than
what
you, a few
I'm
years.
like, what is wrong with me? And so I was
Yeah,
like, why are all these negative things drawn to me? Why, what, so I had all this freaking doubt.
because you're bright light.
Oh yeah, it took me
But,
for
we
well,
didn't know that.
forever, and like you've helped me with releasing a lot of that doubt too, and it was like I can see spirits. It didn't really.
Like, yeah, I don't
I
see
thought
them.
everybody could,
Well,
and I didn't know because like we when I married my husband, he's military. We moved it to the place in Maryland, and oh my God, that whole freaking area, Southern Maryland, was just
you had some really big, um you had some really big see, this is the problem I'm having today,
yeah.
like, I don't know where I am.
It's too
I
early.
have called everything and I have grounded, like, I just cannot seem to get it together. You
Yeah,
had some really big interactions with children ghosts in some of the
yeah,
houses that you lived in as well.
yeah. Like the
Yeah, I wanna
apartment
talk
with the
about
little
this one
girl.
too when we're done talking about this,
Oh,
but
yeah,
yeah, my first appointment with Christine
yeah.
was interesting.
But I never realized I could get rid of them myself by then,
Yeah.
and it just like I
Well,
would the little ghost girl in Maryland, I would look up and like I'm looking at you. I mean, plain as
it's
day.
crazy.
Blonde little
So glad I
6-year-old
don't see
looking
that.
girl, pigtails, her little
Aw,
1900s little dress. And it was nuts,
yeah.
and I would see people a lot. And I'm like, I didn't know that I didn't know. I thought
Yeah.
everybody could. But
Right, and
they
that's
weren't mean though, so I never really tried to get rid of
well,
them.
you don't have to get rid of them, I
Yeah,
mean, in all reality, right? Like, if they're not causing a problem,
yeah,
um, they
and
can,
I think
and
they made Dakota do that so I would see that I could
oh,
do it,
yeah.
you
Well, and
know?
that yeah, I think I started saying that and I went off on a tangent. But yeah, I think that, in the beginning, when we're just tapping into this innate abilities that we have,
Right,
that is when that kind of stuff's going to take place.
yeah,
Something's going to get somebody to bring that around you if it's not
yeah,
already hanging out.
right,
I think that, years and years and years of really deep clinical depression and, you know, abusive relationships
mhm,
and I think that I had a lot of entity issues for a
yeah,
really long time. When I look back in life, I'm like, oh, that some of those out of body rage experiences, that wasn't me.
right,
Like, I'm like, I get it now. I could have taken a
yeah,
different approach, but we went mental health because what else did I know at the time?
right,
But I really do think that when because it came at me hard from every angle
yeah,
as soon as I connected with that first spiritual teacher. Like,
yeah,
I think that a lot of us have that, and I don't think that we realize how much of that is hanging around. And then, we can talk about this, like, not all spirits need to be removed. But
yeah,
here, Christine had this
right.
experience and, she booked an appointment with me, and right away, I was like, "There's some old man there." Like, I don't remember the specifics really well. She does remember it, of course, better than I do because you get channeling. But
Right.
he was pretty sure he was earthbound. He was absolutely attaching to her and causing her physical issues, and he didn't want her there. Like, this was his property, and he had secrets to hide, and like he was just so awful. He was just
Yeah.
awful. And it did constantly cause her issues, and some of which she probably didn't understand at the time. She was aware, like she knew somebody was there.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and until I got on, the call with her, and then I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we got to clear that. Like, that's
Right.
crazy." And he didn't want to leave, so
Wow.
we had to kind of fight it out a
Yeah.
little bit. But I just call in the archangels.
Yeah.
And back then I was really working with them a lot, and they're super helpful. And I just called in whoever came to mind because that's how they work with me. And we just wrangled him with their light and their energy, and we just yanked him over to the light because he wasn't gonna leave.
Yeah.
And I think that when that happened, as I recall, she ended up with like what she felt like was a kick in the head. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, "Oh, my head's killing me." Because he had really attached,
Wow.
and was trying, to cause
Yeah.
problems. So there are times that we run into someone who isn't harmless, and you can't just say, "You don't
Right.
belong here, get out." But in most instances, you can say, "This is not for me.
Right.
You have to leave. You are not allowed to be in this place. You cannot be near me or my energy, and get
Yeah.
out." We absolutely have that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, he would watch her sleep. Yeah, he was a very yeah, he was
That's
very
creepy. That's very
he was
creepy.
he
Yeah.
was angry, and he was really
Yeah.
creepy. He really was. And I felt really bad that she had put up with that for so long. Like,
Yeah.
it was nuts. Um, Absolutely nuts. Yeah,
Mm.
well, yeah, and there was a piece where his wife was there.
Yeah.
I got the understanding that she was kinda stuck there because of
Yeah.
him. So we helped clear her out of there, and we
Yeah.
kinda just, reset what was
Yeah.
happening. But the thing is if we have any doubt within us, so you're having these experiences and you have any
Right.
doubt that you have the right to be like, you can't be here, or you
Yeah.
don't have access to call in archangels to help you, everybody can do it. Everybody.
That was my thing for a
They
while
are right
with the
there.
angels, because I'm like, the religious trauma, I'm not worthy, why would they, and it took me a
Mhm,
little bit to get over that crap and be like, you know
mhm,
what? They're a
mhm.
whole freaking team that you can call in anytime.
Anytime,
And that's what
anytime.
I try to
Learn
tell
the
people.
basic archangels.
Yeah.
Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Metatron. Metatron was
Yeah.
always really helpful and super powerful. Uriel,
Oh,
any of those and any combination of those.
you're right.
I got
I'm
to the
like,
point
hey,
where
come help me.
I got to the point where I didn't necessarily
Yeah.
call specifics. Like, they were
Right.
working with me, so they would tell me if I needed to name someone, I would. I
Yeah.
would get so many names in my head or whatever. But I started just being like, okay, I'm not sure about this situation. I need the most appropriate archangels to come in and
Yeah.
help me. And this is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Um, Transmute this energy. And
Yeah.
I highly suggest anybody moving anything, you're transmuting,
Right.
which just means you're healing it. You're just turning it from dark to light if there's any darkness there. Like, you're moving it and into the light.
Yeah. So
Um,
Helix Fire had a
yeah, I was
question.
just
Yeah,
gonna
there
do
we
that.
go. I, I think it's a little of both, actually. Especially if it's like his house, Frank's house, and
He refused to
like
leave.
you
He did not
said,
cross over.
yeah,
He probably died there, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
If
just
people feel a a combination of things, if people feel like this is my property, and they're
yeah,
really kind of nasty, angry, lower energies,
right.
they can decide to stay there.
Especially if
We
they
don't
have
have to
secrets
cross
that
over.
they don't want uncovered. They're
Exactly,
trying
and
to
he did.
protect. Yeah,
And we didn't care to determine exactly what those were because I'm pretty sure they
right,
weren't good.
right.
But, like, they will decide not to leave. So like this particular guy, he was like, I'm not leaving, and he didn't. So he was earthbound spirit, still had a lot of the angst and the all of the anger, all of the weirdness of
Yeah.
his humanness still intact. Now, if they cross over and come back, then it's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
But they absolutely can come hang out in the area.
Right.
I mean,
As like the boy, he was like 17 when we moved to Norfolk. He got transferred there, and we lived right by the naval base. And there was this huge canal behind our house that used to be a major waterway until they diverted stuff and everything. But that's where all the ships would come in, like right behind our house. And apparently, the 1700s, a kid fell off and drowned. But he hung out at our neighbor Rachel's house. But he would come over when Forrest had to go out. My husband had to go out of town. That's the only time I ever saw him at our house. And I'm like, you're here keeping an eye on us. Because the first time I saw him, it like scared the crap out of me because I'm home alone.
yeah.
The house we were renting was built in the 50s. So it's like all these doorways, hallways, and had like this big area that went off to the back porch where we had the computer. I walked through and I'm like, oh, hey, baby, because there was a guy sitting at the computer. And I took about 3 steps and I froze. And I'm like, I'm all alone, and it was like, oh, shit. And I looked back. I couldn't see his face, but it was like the linen shirt, and the dark brown pants. And I was like, oh, hell, and it's like, okay, just ignore him. He'll go away.
Well,
The next time he went out of town, he was in a chair in the living room. And I was like, and it hit me. He's here protecting us. And I was like, oh, well, thank you, and let him know I appreciated him. And
yeah.
it
And there's
was,
a multitude of reasons that spirits hang around. I mean, some of them personal to the human being.
yeah,
Some of them are just simply confused. They don't know that they're dead. They
right,
don't understand where they're at. I don't know what that's like for them, but they
yeah,
don't know they have died. You see, well, I don't see, but people see, spirits standing on the side of the road next to
right,
accident sites. They're traumatized.
yeah,
They may or may not know that they've left. Also,
right,
there is to some degree imprints that happen when something tragic happens.
yeah,
So, there could be just, what I would call residual
yeah,
energy that you can see something happening. So
yeah,
sometimes you're living somewhere where something traumatic happened and that energy is still playing. That
right,
energy is still running and it's still going and it needs to be cleared out.
yeah,
I have a feeling when we moved into this place, there was some really bad juju here. And if it's for somebody else, I have no issue. If it's for me or something really close to me, like I gotta call somebody else,
yeah,
and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And we were sick. Like whatever it was that was here was making us sick.
yeah,
We had never been so sick in our lives. And it turned out to be spiritual energy, and I think it was a combination, issues that something is attached to the land.
yeah,
Because you can have, bad juju coming from the land, or, there could be curses or hexes or, whatever you want to call it, where there's really nasty energies that then is interacting with some kind of trauma filled
oh, yeah,
energy. And I'll tell you, I know for a fact the man that lived here for 20 years before us had kidney failure and all kinds of
yeah,
health issues. So there's trauma of that, but I also think it can
right.
be caused by what's hanging around.
Oh,
So another
definitely,
reason to call somebody, have them clear your house once in a while.
yeah,
But how do you clear them? How do you release them? I would say, because that was part of this question, I would say you call in, I would call him Michael for
yeah,
sure, Archangel Michael, and I would ask him to remove any and all lower negative energies and entities.
right,
Anything that doesn't belong to me or my family
right,
is to be removed and taken to the light. Um, the taken to the light part is super important because
oh,
they
yes,
can move it and then it can just come back if I can. So
right,
we want to heal it. We want to move it on. So you want to make sure, that you're doing that. And, if it doesn't feel like it's cleared, you might need somebody else to help you. You might need to call a practitioner that you can trust. There's a lot of people, you know, that do that work.
Oh,
And you just have to figure out what you're called to.
yeah.
And if you, I want to say that if you have an issue like in your home, I would be Googling and looking for a practitioner elsewhere. I wouldn't be doing it from my house because they really can have a lot of influence.
Right.
And what you want is to look for someone that you're drawn to. And I
Yeah.
think that's super important. Like if
Oh,
you're like,
yeah.
oh, I need to know that person, or oh, I think that person could do it, then that is exactly what we want. We want discernment at all times.
Right.
So I feel like leave the place that you're having a real problem. Ask for a clearing from Michael for yourself, and then Google and start looking.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't just, willy-nilly contact anybody. And if they're charging $1 million for it, move on.
No.
It strikes me strange that people will charge you, 500,000, or whatever to
Right.
do something that literally would take me 3 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't get it. So I think price point is important. You don't want somebody who's charging $20, but you also don't want somebody who's charging you 1,000 and that they come in saying that there's, all of these huge things. So, who
Right.
you choose is really important if you do need to do that. But if you feel strong and confident in your ability to require whatever it is to leave or call in someone, then do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But,
Yeah. Because I
if
mean,
you
if you
continue
have
to
the
have problems,
confidence, you don't really need
you
anybody.
don't always need
Unless they're putting up a fight, you might,
yeah,
depending on
yeah.
how. But if it's just
It depends on, how infiltrated it is. Like
right.
if you've got, 1,200 spirits there and none of them want to leave, you might look into, am I a medium?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens with me. I tend to ignore them because I don't see them and I sense them and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm
Right.
terrible. But, if you have like a bunch of spirits hanging out, girlfriend, you may want to check and see,
Yeah.
maybe I need to talk to a spiritual teacher that seems like I'm drawn to them because maybe I have something going on that I need to understand. And
Mhm.
even if you don't want to do it as, like this or, working with clients, knowing your abilities and
So,
having an idea of how they work and how to protect and how to tame your energy field is super important because it can
yeah.
just help you in your life. Like you don't have to work with people at all, but you
Right.
could be a medium and have spirits and angels and guides helping you and you be interacting with them through
Yeah.
your daily life and whatever you choose not to be.
They'll help you.
Hmm?
I said, and they will help you too.
They absolutely will help you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I think I have just kind of gone on a tangent there. I'm so
Oh,
sorry. I hope that was helpful,
no.
May. I'm like, oh gosh, are we even staying on topic? I don't know. Shonda's just going to keep talking.
Judy was asking about the ghost soul family. I thought that our soul family
Wait,
in
wait,
the
wait, wait,
light.
wait, wait. Let me find. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm curious. Okay, is it this one? We need to. Can you click on
Yeah.
them?
I don't know, can I?
Yeah,
I
can
think
you
I
try?
can.
Okay, is this the one?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. And I've kind of had Azrael whispering in my
Yeah,
ear,
yeah.
and I work a lot with him, and he's kind of telling me that a lot of them get confused, and there's also some carry the fear, as like Shauna was saying,
So
and
many have that fear, that religious
yeah,
built-in
oh my
programmed.
God, I'm going to go to
Yeah.
hell. So
And
they,
they don't trust their loved ones when they come.
right,
'Cause they don't.
yeah,
They have this fear of these demons that pretend to be other things, which is true. I mean, it happens,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
and whew, okay, thank you. Yeah, so
multitude of
it's
reasons
a
that
lot of
people don't
fear,
leave.
yeah.
Yeah, some people don't want to be dead.
And like
Some
the
people,
trauma, if it's
yeah,
so traumatic, they can't believe that they are,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Y Absolutely, and, some people just aren't ready to go.
Yeah.
Some people will stay to finish something.
Yeah.
So that's also an option for
Yeah.
people, is like you die and you're not done with something, or you want to help your family through something, you can stay and do that. It's not the
Yeah.
same as being physical, of course, but you actually can stay and do that. I mean, we have choice at all
Yeah.
times, even when we pass. It isn't a forced
Right.
crossover, not necessarily.
Right.
Confusion, fear plays a huge part.
Yeah.
Huge part. If you ever have anybody dying, quickly explain to them hell
Yeah.
is a human concept.
Yeah.
It's
And I think
not
that's
a
one of the
spiritual.
things that drew me into being like a death doula, because it's so funny. And I don't want to say like I don't help plan stuff, but I do help with the crossing over aspect of it. And because as a kid, I can remember laying in my bed, freaking crying because I was so scared of dying. And that
Oh.
more religious trauma, that prayer, if I
Oh,
die
yeah.
before I wake, you know, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
I'm
I
going to
never liked
die in my
that.
sleep, you know.
Even my parents used that prayer, which
Yeah,
we weren't
it's
religious
hard as
people.
a kid. Well, we weren't either. I mean, you know, my mom wasn't,
Well,
but
yeah,
it's like,
but you have
oh,
well, we
breathe.
all kinda have that basis to some degree,
Yeah,
right?
but it's like, yeah.
Let's look at this one here. Is
So,
there a significant difference between a medium cleaning coming physically to their location versus distance to an area of negative energy? I'm going to be frank here. For me, I am much better to be at a distance,
yeah,
frankly. It's easier. I can still see things and know things just as clearly as if I'm
right.
sitting there. And I have had both experiences. I will share this one. I went to was when I was living in Oregon, went to these people's house. There was a local business that had opened, a spiritual business, which was kind of like the first one in the area for a long time. Then they went out, but they were like mentoring these people. And they had a daughter that was just off the charts,
Right.
just everything online and just magnificent. But she was like 15.
Yeah.
And they lived in a place that I have never seen such interdimensional,
Wow.
yucky energy. Like, and there were portals all over the place
Wow.
where this energy was coming into this property. It was feeding on their animals. They had farm animals,
Wow.
and it was feeding on certain farm animals, and they were dying and they couldn't figure out what was happening.
Wow.
Like, it was nuts what was
Yeah.
going on there. And I went there physically, and I was like, oh, and most of the time for me, if they don't think I'm going to do anything, they'll leave me alone. Because
Yeah.
if I know they're there, I could do something and they know it. So, but this, they left me alone for, excuse me, probably the first 25 minutes or so. And I was like, I could feel it all. Like it was so creepy. And then we were sitting outside and their dog was there. And he walked up next to me and he looked out and he just started growling. And I guess the daughter could see everything, right? I
Oh,
don't see nothing. I just know, I was like, yeah. And I started getting a headache, right?
yeah.
And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, she's gonna do something. So we're gonna see if we can thwart this. It was a very interesting experience. I have never been anywhere that was quite so bad. And it
Wow.
was one of those things where I just took care of that. Like, no, no, no. And she was like, that
Mhm.
was weird. She's like, there was like 5 entities and they were all just like coming in. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. And I just
Yeah.
did my thing and sent them back. And she was like, they just like all went within themselves and gone. And I was like, because I sent them back through that portal right there.
Yeah.
Like, close that up. But, I don't know where I was even going with that now. But
Distance versus actually being there,
yeah,
clearings.
I left there. And of course, now I'm a little depleted, right?
Right.
Because you can't not be affected by that.
Right.
So I realized that the next time we were going to do any work with them, I walked them out and taught them how to call things in and how to close things and do some work on their own because Spirit was saying they're not going to have you keep coming here. But I did some work distance with them.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was more powerful to
Yeah.
be at distance. I find healing for people
Oh, yeah.
also distance seems to work better. And
It,
we talked about this recently,
yeah.
right? And the reasons were
you're more comfortable. You're at home. They're at home, and
You're not worried about what I
there's
look
less
like or how I
distractions.
feel or
Yeah,
who's gonna touch me or
right. And
right.
like here, I feel safer here because I do call in my circle of protection
Mhm.
every day. So I know it's strong
Yeah.
here
Yeah, you
versus
don't get as
when
depleted.
there. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, I know I'm
But
completely and totally protected here.
yeah, all that
Not that I
oversharing.
wouldn't be, but it's not, I don't know. I
No,
think,
it's a little different. I
yeah,
think comfort is really important because when the practitioner's in their comfort, then it is easier for them, I think, and stronger for them. And if the client is comfortable, that too. Now, that all being said, there are practitioners that want to be on site, that
right.
need to be on site, that's how they work the best.
Yeah,
I think that there isn't one that works better for the other or better
yeah,
than the other. I think it depends on who you're dealing with
right,
and what their abilities really are. They may need to be there, they may need to see and speak to the spirits, they may need to have that. And then some others of us, and I think there's more now, I think that things are changing where there's more practitioners that are just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, at a distance. And I believe that's because of the whole process of awakening for the earth.
right.
The As they say, the veils are thinning. It is different now than it
Yeah,
was 5 years ago. It
right.
just is so different. So I would say that it's probably, beneficial either way, just depending on the practitioner,
Yeah,
frankly. I prefer not to have to be in the middle of it. I find it
right,
easier. If I need to clear my house, sometimes I leave.
right.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get out from under it so I can see it clearly because for me, that's just what works. And I do a lot of clearing work. I
Yeah,
don't I don't market it. I don't talk about it that much, but I do a lot of clearing work. It's always something to clear
right.
somewhere. Um, let's see, what is this one? Do earthbound spirits understand time as in they no.
Mm-mm.
No, I don't believe they
No,
still have the time factor going on.
no.
I feel like they're like at an in between.
Yeah,
I have had spirits come to me that have been gone a long time that didn't know they were gone a long time.
yeah,
And that was around, in the beginning as well. I had another one that was that way.
yeah,
Um, I believe they're in some weird in between where there just isn't
yeah.
the kind of time.
And if they do see or hear their spirit guides, they're scared of them.
Oh
It's
yeah.
more of that fear.
I think fear really causes the biggest of problems,
Yeah,
honestly. Really.
yeah. It is
It
sad.
is sad.
It
But
really is. Ooh,
yeah,
sun's
yeah.
coming out. I'm dark.
And we could talk about this too. I did have an experience. Me and a friend of mine went to someone's house and she was a sensitive and
Yeah.
she was like, I don't like this war memorabilia. Her boyfriend had guns and all kinds of stuff from the
Yeah.
wars. And she was like, it just is overwhelming to me. She said, I don't know what it is. And we all sat down at a table and we all were like, okay, what can we do to help? Right? We're calling on spirit. What can we do? What can we do to help? And all of a sudden, we had this line of
Wow.
hundreds and hundreds of spirits that were stuck, attached, who had been killed in war,
Yeah.
who was just like, I'm getting the goosebumps now.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous clearing to open. We just pulled down the light and opened a bridge for them. And they were so happy to leave. But we don't really realize how much gets imprinted on these things.
Right.
So we helped them cross them over, and then we did some clearing on the items to make sure there wasn't anything else, attached to the
Yeah.
item. And her boyfriend wasn't sensitive at all, and he didn't believe in any of this. So we did all this while he was not home, and he
Yeah.
came home and he instantly got angry
Oh wow.
because the energy was different around those
Yeah.
items. So that was very interesting. So he wasn't sensitive, but, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, so he was mad, and he somehow knew what we had done.
Yeah. Wow.
But
See.
there's just so many reasons that
Oh,
spirits
yeah.
can get stuck here.
And it's
Like,
funny because my husband now, he has realized, because, being military, he likes all he will go on Facebook Marketplace and just
oh,
buy all, and I'm like, it's not coming into
just
this
clear it,
house
girl, just clear it.
until I deal with it. Okay. Like, and he knows he'll leave it, out in his truck or wherever. And I make sage sprays, and I'm like, keep it in there. Whatever comes in, you spray it. Before you get in, you spray it on yourself. I'm like, no,
I just, call the angels.
yeah. I like to let
I
us
just hold
know,
things. I
though.
just, you know,
Yeah.
anything that doesn't belong to me gets out.
And
My energy
it's
goes in.
funny because it makes a lot of it's hitting me as we're doing this here. That's why I don't like going to New Orleans anymore. I have not
Oh,
liked
yeah.
going to New Orleans after Katrina. And I used to love it. I was down there every weekend because it's
Well,
such a
maybe you should go share some energy there.
oh
Maybe you need to stroll it, or maybe just from where you're at, you
yeah.
hold a session of releasing and
Do you
clearing
know
and
how much is holy shit?
oh, yeah, yeah. Let's do that together. Let's do it together. We'll do that
Oh,
together. We'll make a plan to do
especially
that
around
together.
the French Quarter. There's like, and nobody knows this hardly unless you live around here. The French Quarter is built on top of a cemetery that the church took up the headstones, but not the
Mm.
bodies.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, God, we could go on for days and days about some of that stuff. Like, the ways that messes with energy,
Oh my God.
it it's
Yeah.
just yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, there was a
but,
story of he was
anywhere
walking
there's
through the
been
swimming pool,
devastation.
and it was like the poltergeist all over it. It's like they're digging for the pool, and they're pulling up skulls and skeletons, and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, so complicated.
yeah.
And I mean, if any of
French
those
Quarter
are
live stream.
found, what?
French Quarter live stream.
Right? If we could afford it, I'd totally go.
Right.
Absolutely. And wander a place like that. But, we don't have to. We could just do it from where we're at.
Right.
We'll just get together and we'll work anyway, we'll work
It's,
on that. What do you do if you feel spiritually yucky? You mean like maybe you have like heavy energy on or around you? And if that's the case,
yeah.
Archangel Michael, all day long. Archangel Michael.
No.
Clear any and all lower negative energies from my being, from my energy field,
And
from my home. Anything
cut,
that doesn't belong
kill
to
the
me.
cords to you. Everything.
If that doesn't work, then you need a practitioner. You need someone to help you. You need to be like, hey, I feel this weirdness. What's going on? A lot of the time, we have those experiences because it's a lesson for us. We're to learn something from it. And it could be that you learn you're powerful. It could be that you learn you've been hanging out with so and so and they have an entity, and that entity then invades you and you bring it home and you learn how to clear yourself before
You
you
get nasty people. Yeah.
get home, or you brought something into your house that maybe has some yucky energy attached to it. And, you know, it grows and it changes. It becomes intelligent. Like leftover trauma energy can become intelligent, turn into an entity. Like
Yep.
it's crazy, and it's everywhere all the time. So it's not like you can't pick up something. I pick up stuff, and I have this lovely like smell issue. I guess I was ignoring entities as badly as I ignore spirits
Right.
because they brought online my what they call clairalience or clairgustance or something, which is a smell. And although it hasn't just been entity, it started that way.
Yeah.
I had an attachment for a long time and I couldn't get that damn thing off. And I could smell it and it smelled like similar to car exhaust
Yeah.
24/7. And I was like, what is this? Like it was driving me nuts until I got to the right person that could help me understand what was going on and then how to kind of clear it. And frankly, there are times that I will have something like that going on. And what it takes to clear it is I see you and you're not for me.
Yeah.
You're not for me. I'll laugh. I will fake laugh because that's a high vibration. I will sing the light language now that I got light language, you know. I'll be walking around the house doing all kinds of weird shit, you know. But if you
Oh, light
can't,
language is
like,
amazing for raising your vibration and
oh,
getting stuff out. Yeah,
everybody needs light language. Girl, everybody needs it. It's
absolutely. Yeah.
amazing. Um,
And
there's just so many little
sometimes you
things
can
that
have attachments from past lives too. Because
absolutely,
Rachel had to clear one that I had from a past life. Yeah.
yeah.
It
But
wasn't
you know,
horrible, but yeah, it was enough to
yeah.
drag me
And
down some.
we should
Yeah.
make a side note. Okay, if you're not into like totally being like, oh, I'm calling an angel, you can try Palo Santo. You can try sage, right? You can use some of those physical things. I've personally used sprays like Joelle has, like
Yeah.
sage spray, which you can make yourself or
Oh, it's
buy,
easy. Yeah.
um, and spray it with
Mhm.
the intention that anything that is attached to you or within you that doesn't belong to you goes away.
Right.
You know,
I keep
but
a
if it
bottle by my
persists,
front door. I'm like, if
yeah.
somebody's coming over, I'll spray it and they have to walk through it before
I
they
put up a
go.
waterfall of light. It's so funny. You know, well, the things
Oh
we
yeah,
do,
yeah.
whatever you feel works for you will work. It's
Oh
true.
yeah,
And I mean, we could do this for hours. I mean, there's just a multitude of things that you can do.
yeah,
But if it hangs out, like, find someone, find a practitioner,
yeah.
you know, that is willing to help, that you feel guided to, that you're comfortable in their energy, that isn't weirdly witchy or something. You know, I'm not saying witches are bad. I'm just saying that there are some scammers out there, and it
Oh
isn't
yeah.
always easy. It's so
And you can
annoying.
even ask your guides, hey,
All
send
the
me the
time.
best person that can help me with this,
Yeah.
and they'll
And
pop
have
up
them
with
lead you
it.
to it. I
Yeah,
used to have people show up in my feed. That's how I found
right.
Rachel. She just showed up on
Mhm.
my feed one day and I was like, "Wait, who's this?"
I
And I
know,
was like, "Holy cow, I gotta know her," right? She's taught us a lot.
absolutely.
But, you know, it's super important. And, um, hold on. Clearly, yeah, smells. Yeah, it's weird. Um, let's go down through these comments here for a second. My experience feeling spiritual yucky can also be caused by personal shadows, fear. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah, it's built up energy. Not everything's entity, negative energy.
no.
You know, it can just be crappy energy that you're holding on to for someone else or for yourself or that just built up around you. Like, I will have a session with a client and I'll notice that it looks like they're almost sitting in the dark. And I'll be
No,
like, it's interesting because I feel like a heaviness, you know? And so we'll do whatever we're doing. You know, I'll do a lot of kind of counseling ish stuff. And then I'll be like, do you mind if I run some energy? And
no.
I'll run some energy and you will see, and they'll go, gosh, it almost seems brighter in here. And like, I'm on a computer, so I can see how bright it's getting, you know, and they're like, wow, what a difference. Like, so
Right,
sometimes it's just energy that's built up around you for many, many reasons. It isn't always an entity. It isn't always that for sure.
right.
And energy clearing, a Reiki session, like, dude, reset stuff,
Amazing.
clears old energy. We hold our own emotional energies. We get stuck
Oh yeah.
and get crazy. Like, we could go on for days and days about that. Oh my gosh. I mean, and there is all kinds of beings, right? Some of them cause problems, some of them don't,
Right.
you know, and you know, I don't know. I don't know what else to even say about that. Rachel!
Rachel, we were just talking about you.
Yeah, CET's positive,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and somehow we start out with entities and we just been kind of stuck there. But that is, you know, beautiful point. Not everything is bad. We
No.
can have ETs, we can have
Yeah.
elementals, we can have fairies
I get
floating around,
the
we can have
ETs
angels
can be
popping
so
in.
helpful too. We're just so many are conditioned to be like, oh, they're so bad and think they're negative, but oh,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
got
it
some
isn't
amazing.
always negative. And that also is where a session can help you. Like, if you're like, there's stuff going on in my house and I don't understand what's happening, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And
Right.
sometimes a session can help you understand
Yes.
what's there, right? What is happening? And like I said earlier, if you got 1,200 spirits hanging around, maybe you're a medium, your guides are trying to get a hold of you all the
Mm,
time. And if you're knowing something's there, don't always assume it's bad,
yeah,
but you may need a practitioner to figure it out in the
yeah,
beginning until you get those connections going, you
right.
know,
I want
anyhow.
to go back up to this one from Helix, paying attention to signs. But yeah, you are psychic. You just have to believe
So,
it
yeah.
and open up more to it because,
You just have to figure out how.
yeah, what works for you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're all so different.
Because if you say you're not, then you're not going to be. And that's one thing that Shauna and Rachel have both taught me is keep up your thoughts.
And
I
we
can do this. And because we all are. Oh, Rachel just said it. Yeah.
we really are. We
Yes.
really are all so gifted.
Yeah.
And I just, and I have my own self-worth issues, right? I have my own life issues, but we are humans, are amazing magical beings who just have no clue how
Right.
amazing and magical we are.
Right.
And when you start stepping into the other side of life, right, where you're like, oh, like my whole life, I was like, there's got to be more to life than this crap. Like, there's got to
Right.
be. So finally found it, but not until, later in life. But when you start stepping in and open, you realize there are some magical people,
Oh,
and we're all cut from the same cloth.
mm-hmm.
We all are
We
magical and
all come
amazing.
from the same place. Yeah.
Nothing you can't do. Nothing. It's just about limited beliefs, and it's about being physical, and all of those, excuse me, pieces that you learn. And I get so
Right.
excited because it just really is true.
Oh, I
It's
know.
like
That's
hear
like
that all
me.
the
It's just,
time.
even though I've been doing this for every time something happens, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's like, I mean, it is. It's just, and they want us to be like that and keep the vibration up. So it does help us tune in. And yeah, definitely tune
I
into it.
think one of the, for me, when I talk to people, one of the things that I start with them is figure out how to control your own energy.
Yeah.
Figure out what you're doing. Figure out what you're absorbing. Start setting boundaries around you. Call your energy in. Call yourself back. All parts of you, all energy you've left out. Call yourself back every day. Ground your energy regularly. Like really get connected to this energy,
Right.
because we are physical, but we also have this huge energy field.
Mhm.
And if you have any like healer, I call it the healer energy, you're just snaking your energy out to everyone in the
Right.
area that needs love. But you end up depleted. So it's a kind of important. Call that back, bring it back in. Learn you first before you go looking for, learn your energy first. Like
Yeah.
get a hold of it before you start looking to necessarily expand. But you can do that in a couple weeks of regular practice,
Oh, yeah.
honestly. You don't have to do any, big thing. You just need to learn what works for you, and simple statement. I am this simple. Like, if you
Oh,
have if you have a, big drawn out thing to do, that's great. But I am like simple. I'm like, hey, all my energy that's left out with others, whether I know it or not, comes back to me now.
yeah.
I am whole. I ask my soul to anchor in better because I disassociate. I learned to do that as a child. I call all my soul back in. As much of my soul
Right.
I can hold, I ask to come in. Please anchor in. I want to be present. I want to, like getting our own stuff online. I
Yeah.
can see I'm doing it again. Sorry.
You're
I
fine. Like
love
I
to
said,
talk.
you've helped me so much. You and Rachel both have helped me so much this past year. I mean, yeah.
Super important. Start with this energy. I'm telling you, start with the
Right.
energy field. You don't have to worry about the other stuff. Start with your energy field. Start with protection in the sense that you don't want anything coming through that doesn't belong,
Right.
right? I don't want to be thrown off track. I want to get to know me, focus in, commit to focusing in, and it just changes everything. And I wish I had known that so many years ago.
Right.
But I had to live the life that I needed to live, right? And that is how it is. And we do have to remember not to judge ourselves too. I really didn't come into this until I was into my late 30s.
Yeah.
Um,
In
so
my
uh,
40s. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and really, really came into it in my 40s. So, if you're at all learning any younger than that, woohoo.
Right.
Because you must have moved through some lessons you didn't have to keep doing first.
You listen to your spirit guides, unlike me, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
hurt me to make me listen to them.
Well, I mean, there's another piece, right? If you're not doing, if you're not self-caring and you're not
Right.
like Joelle can get over busy channeling and doing all this stuff, which is beautiful, don't get me wrong.
Well, I had
But the
practice.
self-care goes out the window.
Yes.
There's not enough water, there's not enough salt, there's not enough food, there's not enough for self-care time. And then
Yeah.
they'll be like, well, guess what? You get to take a nap for the next 3 days. You have a cold.
Right.
Like, if they're telling you, if you're getting the hint that you need to rest, girl,
Yeah.
find time to rest.
And pay
Right.
attention to your thoughts too, because that's how they come to me. A thought will just pop in my head and I brush it away. And that's how they communicate to me. I mean, everybody's different, but from my experience, and it's like, oh,
Knowing.
I will, let me get this and I'll go rest. And then my squirrel brain kicks in and I do 10 other things. And
They're all, we know what that means.
I get stung in the face by a wasp and they're like, yeah, you're going to lay down now.
You can take it easy. And that is actually true, and sometimes we can kind of use that to see those things that we deem bad as a human happening to us as a sign from the universe that we need to slow down and pay more attention,
Yeah.
because sometimes something will happen that will kind of halt us in our tracks.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time the universe is just saying, hey, you're a little off track and you're not paying attention to these things. And this is what's important. It's
Yeah.
one of the ways that they guide us. I mean, you can't tell me it's not.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I've said this before, ask them for stuff that you can understand. Just, hey, send me messages that I have no trouble
Yeah.
understanding them. And they will. I mean, the first time I did that, I got 3 TikToks in a row on what I was needing. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you, they can bring it to you
It
on social
works.
media. They can bring it to
Oh,
you on the radio. Like things will just start popping up and you're just like, huh, what a coincidence. It's
right.
not a coincidence. There's no such thing. No, that's them being like, hello, you going to hear this one? But you have a good point. So there are times that we're getting weird symbols or whatever, and we think they're symbols, but we can't figure them out. So good point, Joelle.
Hey,
Ask
you
for
sent me a
more
feather. What
clear,
does this mean?
more clear signs than
Thank
you
you,
needed.
but
Yeah, yeah. They're like, oh, they're gonna know this. No, we don't know. We're much more oblivious than you think.
right.
Ugh. Anyhow, I feel like we totally went like all over the place with this today, but I'm hoping that it's helpful.
Yeah.
We were gonna do some channeling. I mean, we are like way over,
Oh, yeah.
but
Oh, wow, we are.
yeah,
Didn't
we
even
could do this
seem
for
like it,
hours.
though. I mean, that means it was good, though.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of information. I think we shared lots of bits and pieces of information. So of course, if
Right.
there's something that someone needs more, understanding on or what have you, or you want us to expand in another moment, let us know in the comments. We
Yeah,
are
we're
open
always
to
looking for
ideas.
ideas.
Now, did you have somebody you wanted to channel? Do you want to do that real quick before we go?
Still want to come through?
Because we are supposed to be channeling. I mean, this is all channeled information, just to a
Yeah.
degree. But yeah,
Yeah, it was Metatron. Is he still here?
Metatron, yes. I think he is because I can feel
Yeah.
really. Yep, there he is.
Ooh, come on in. Yes, what you're all saying is so true. The main aspects is to trust yourself and the things that we give you. Don't doubt any messages or any thoughts, feelings, anything you see. If it clicks, know that that is for you. And know Ooh, excuse me here. Ooh, can you hold
Yeah,
back a
the
little bit?
energy's high.
Yeah. Ooh. Sometimes I have to ask them to step back a little bit because this is a lot.
Yeah. Even my ears are hurting, so
And he's big, big energy. Ooh.
Metatron's amazing.
You need to realize that you can do whatever it is you wish. Even this one needs to realize that she is not less than those that she brings in. She does have the power to hold them just as you all do. For we are all from the same place. We all are one. And you do have the power to release all that does not serve you. You just have to have the faith and confidence to do so. Ooh, that was short and to the point.
Yeah. It's so true though, and,
Ooh,
we kind of had we get on here for a little bit before we
yeah,
start, and we
right.
had a little talk earlier where she was like, "Oh, I pulled this card," and I was like, "I don't want," she's like, "I don't want to channel
It's,
God." I'm like, "Why
it's
not?"
my daddy card. I'm like, I can't channel God.
And I'm like, "Why not?" I mean, you're
Right.
just as worthy
Yeah.
of channeling God as anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
still have doubts. I'm working on them. I'm better.
I know. I know. I'm like, why not? Heck, I call him in to help me clear sometimes. Like, I mean, I'm like, I'm not against any calling in anyone.
Right.
Like, whoever wants to show up, let's do it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it is a beautiful message though. And it is important. We all struggle. I don't care how long you've been
Right.
in this field or, learning or understanding, or even though we know we are all coming from the same energy, we have life experiences that put us all in
Oh, yeah.
certain modes. And it's hard to let go of some of that stuff,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
And
Lots of emotions.
this thing just keeps running through my head. So I'm going to back up just a touch here for a second. When we're talking about clearing things, even if it's just yucky energy, I want to add to every bit that we've said that if you are trying to release or clear energy, that you please, oh God, seriously? I just lost it. No, no, no.
Right.
This was important. Oh, stop thinking about it.
Right.
You have to release the story of whatever's happening. You cannot think that, so let's say you go to somebody and they say Hitsumanity or whatever. Do not focus on what that was or why it was there. The second you do, you open up to a new one.
Right.
So it's super, super, super important to let go of all your stories. And really, that is true of any aspect of healing and learning and moving forward, is to let go of the old story. We
Mm-hmm.
have to let go of the old story. That's what me. That's not who I am now.
Right.
And that is just like kind of across the board in anything spiritual, is let go of the story that was behind it.
Yeah.
Stick with the present and the story moving forward. And yes, it was Metatron. Sorry. We could see that if I took a second, I completely forget how this is how I've been today. But yeah, so that was beautiful. Thank you, Joelle.
Thank you.
Energy was so strong, it was like hurting me. I was like,
Well,
"Woo, I'm not telling him back out of that."
and that's funny because that's the second time. Like, was it last week? Who did I pull? Oh,
Yeah.
the Venetian. What's Venusian?
Yeah.
Because I was channeling, but you were burning up.
I
That
was like,
was
I
so,
am right now too. Yeah.
that was so funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank
So
you.
we've went way beyond what, I think we had intended on talking about, but
Yeah,
I think what happens happens.
it does.
And this is our awkward piece.
Yeah.
We're never going to be overly organized, and we're never going to be
Yeah.
overly on point because we have just too
We're
much that we
human.
want to talk about. Yeah.
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 We're
Yeah.
humans with ADHD that's undiagnosed, and
I frankly, I don't know anybody who
I
doesn't
call it
have
spirit
that.
brain, especially when I go to channel. Oh, shit, I can't remember anything.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely such a thing.
That's
So
why I record
anyhow.
half of the things I do is just so I can go back and watch. Because once they're gone, I'm
Mhm.
like, what did they say?
Well, anytime you're channeling anything, you're only so present. Like we aren't fully out of the way like Rachel does, but we'll get there. But there are times that we aren't 100% sure exactly what that message was.
Right.
So anyhow, thank you for
Oh,
being
thank y'all
here.
for joining
Super
us,
appreciate all of
bearing
you
with
being
us.
present early in the morning or midday for you, whatever it is.
And remember, the 20th, Fridays at
Yes.
2 Central.
We are moving. We are
Yeah,
moving to Fridays.
yeah,
And we're starting that on the 20th. And it will be noon Pacific Mountain Time,
yeah.
2
Central,
Central,
3.
3 Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all those, covering all of that. So we will be, um, we will be, we'll be on Fridays. We will be on Fridays, and we're hoping that'll be a little bit better time for most people because, Tuesdays are just a weird day. So
Oh,
we will see
yeah.
you all then, and
Yeah.
thank you
Thank y'all
for
again.
being here, and bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Thank y'all.